Most people who want to earn more money think they need more leads, more calls, more messages, more followers, more people seeing their offer. And yes, volume matters. If nobody sees your offer, nobody can buy. But there is a deeper problem. A lot of people are getting in front of the right people, but the people still do not buy. Not because the offer is bad, not because the client is broke, not because the market is impossible, but because the client cannot clearly see how buying from you will make them money. That is the real issue. You are asking them to pay, but you are not showing them what they can get back. So to them, your price feels like a cost. And when your price feels like a cost, people hesitate. They compare you to cheaper options. They ask for discounts. They say, let me think about it. They say, I need to talk to my partner. They say, can we start smaller? But when they can clearly see the return, the whole conversation changes. Now your price is not just a cost. It is a smaller number beside a bigger number. That is how people make buying decisions. If someone pays you $3,000 and believes there is a real path to making $15,000, the decision feels different. If someone pays you $10,000 and believes there is a real path to making $100,000, the price feels different. But if someone pays you $500 and has no idea what they get back, even $500 feels expensive. That is the real truth. Cheap is still expensive when the value is unclear. Expensive can feel cheap when the return is obvious. This is why expert sellers do not only explain what they do, they explain what is it worth. A beginner says, I don't ask. An expert says, here's what your numbers look like now. Here's what one new customer is worth to you. Here's how many new customers you would need to break even. Here's what would happen if we improve this one part of the system. That is a different conversation. One sounds like a service, the other sounds like a business decision. And business owners do not wake up excited to buy services. They wake up wanting more profit, more time, more control, less stress, and fewer problems. So if you sell to them, you have to connect your work to those things. Do not make them do the math. That is one of the biggest mistakes. A lot of people explain their offer and hope the client understands the value. They say, we do your ads, we build your website, we edit your videos, we help with your sales, we create content, we improve your systems. And the client is sitting there thinking, okay, but what does that actually do for me? This is where sales are lost. Not because the seller is bad, but because the seller made the buyer carry the hardest part of the decision. The buyer has to figure out the connection between the service and the money. You should do that for them. If you are a video editor, do not only say I edit videos. Say, right now your videos are getting views, but they are not turning viewers into buyers. If we improve the hook, the pacing, and the offer at the end, the goal is not just better videos. The goal is more people taking action. If you build websites, do not only say I build websites. Say, if 1,000 people visit your page and only 10 book a call, your website is losing money. If you move that from 10 calls to 30 calls, the same traffic becomes worth more. If you are a sales coach, do not only say I train your team. Say, if your team already has calls booked, but they close 15 out of 100, then improving that to 25 out of 100 changes your revenue without needing more leads. That is the move. You take what you do and attach it to a business result. More calls, more booked appointments, more sales, higher prices, better retention, less wasted spend, more profit, faster decisions, less chaos. This is what people pay for. Now here's the part most people avoid. If you want to show people what you can help them earn, you need to know your numbers. Not vibes, not random testimonials, not one client who had a great result. Your real numbers. What happens on average? What happens for your best clients? What happens for your worst clients? What type of client wins the most with you? What type of client fails even when you do good work? Most people do not know this. They say our clients usually do well. That is not enough. How well? In what time frame? Compared to what they paid? What did they spend? What did they earn? How much of that was profit? Where did the result come from? If you do not know, your sales will always be weaker than they could be. Because confidence comes from proof, and proof comes from tracking. If you help clients make money, you need to track how much money you help them make. That number determines how much you can charge. It also determines how well you can sell. Because once you know the real return, your offer becomes clearer. You can say, here's what our average client sees. Here's what the better clients have in common. Here's what needs to be true for this to work. Here's where people fail. Here's the budget that actually gives this a fair shot. Here's the break-even point. That builds trust because now you are not just selling hope, you are showing the logic. And this is very important. You do not need to promise results. You shouldn't promise fake results. You should not say you will definitely make this much. That is weak selling. Strong selling is honest. You say, based on your numbers, here's what needs to happen for this to make sense. That feels different. It feels real. It feels adult. It feels like you are helping them make a good decision, not pushing them into a sale. And that increases close rate. Because people trust the person who is willing to show the math, especially when the math is not exaggerated. Let's say a clinic sells a treatment worth $2,000. You help them get new appointments. If one new customer is worth $2,000 and your service costs $3,000, then they need 2 new customers to be ahead. Now the conversation becomes simple. Can you create 2 extra customers? What does it take to create those 2 customers? How many leads do we need? How many calls? How many appointments? How many people need to show up? How many need to close? Now the sale is not emotional. It is clear, and clarity closes. But most people never do this. They just say, we can help you grow. That is too big. Grow how? By how much? From where? What is the path? What could go wrong? What needs to be true? The more big your offer is, the more risky it feels. The more clear your offer is, the safer it feels. And buyers pay for safety. Not fake safety, real safety. The safety of understanding, the safety of seeing the path, the safety of knowing the numbers. This is why showing the client what they can make increases close rate. Because you reduce the unknown. You make the decision easier. You move the buyer from, I hope this works, to, I understand how this could work. That shift is huge. Now here is where it gets even deeper. Sometimes the client wants to spend less money because they think that lowers risks. But spending 2 liters can actually increase risks. This happens all the time. A client says, can you just test with a small budget? It sounds smart. It sounds safe. But sometimes the budget is so small that the test cannot prove anything. Imagine each booked call costs $100. If the client spends $1,000, they may only get 10 calls. If only half of those people show up, that is 5 conversations. If they close 1 out of 5, they get 1 customer. That might not be enough data. It might not be enough money back. It might not prove if the system works. So the client thinks they are being safe by spending less. But really, they are making failure more likely. An expert seller explains this, not in a pushy way, in a helpful way. You say, if we spend too little, we may not get enough data to make a good decision. A bigger test doesn't mean wasting more money. It means getting enough information to see what is working faster. That is a powerful frame because now the higher investment is not just more expensive, it is more useful. It gives the client a better chance to win. This is what experts understand. The goal is not to get the client to spend the most. The goal is to get the client to spend enough for the plan to actually work. That is a big difference. Bad sellers push bigger numbers because they want more money. Good sellers show bigger numbers when the smaller number gives the client a worse chance. That builds trust, and trust closes. Another expert point, you need to know who should not buy from you. Most people are so hungry for sales that they sell to anyone. But bad fit clients destroy your numbers. They lower your success rate, they waste your team's time, they complain more, they do not follow the process, they make your offer look worse than it is. So when you track client results, you are not only finding proof, you are finding patterns. You start to see these clients win, these clients struggle, these clients are not ready, these clients need a different offer, these clients should not be sold at all. That is how your close rate gets better over time. Not by convincing everyone, by getting better at choosing who should enter. A strong business does not close everyone. A strong business closes the right people because the right people get better results. Better results create better proof makes sales easier. Easier sales create more revenue lets you improve the product. A better product creates even better results. That's the loop. Most people are stuck in the opposite loop. They sell unkiller promises. They attract bad fit clients. Bad fit clients get weak results. Weak results create weak proof. Weak proof makes sales harder. Harder sales make them desperate. Desperation makes them sell to even worse fit clients. That loop kills businesses. So the goal is not just more volume. The goal is better volume. More conversations with the right people. More offers with clearer math. More proof from real outcomes. More tracking. More honest feedback. Volume negates luck only when the volume is aimed at something real. If you make 1,000 unclear offers, you just create 1,000 chances to confuse people. But if you make 1,000 clear offers backed by simple money math, now you have something powerful. Now every conversation teaches you. Every no gives you information. Every ask gives you proof. Every client result improves your next close. This is how earning more becomes less mysterious. Track the outcome, show the return, make the math simple, sell to the right fit, then increase volume. That is the order. Most people skip the first steps. They just try to sell harder. But harder selling does not fix unclear value. If the buyer cannot see the money, pressure will not help. If the buyer can see the money, pressure is not needed. That is the beautiful part. The best sales call does not feel like a fight. It feels like both people looking at the same problem together. You are not saying, please buy my thing. You are saying, here's where you are. Here's what this problem is costing you. Here's what could happen if we fix it. Here's what it costs to fix it. Here's what needs to be true for this to make sense. That is clean, that is helpful, that is expert level selling. And it works because buyers do not want to be convinced. They want to feel certain. They want to know, is this worth it? Can this work for me? What happens if I do nothing? What happens if I start too small? What does success actually look like? What needs to happen for me to win? Answer those questions before they ask them. That is how you increase close rate. Now apply this to yourself. If you want to earn more money, ask, can I clearly show what I help people gain? Can I clearly show what problem I remove? Can I clearly show what's staying the same is costing them? Can I clearly show the path from my work to their result? Can I clearly show proof from real clients? Can I clearly explain who this is not for? If you cannot answer those questions, your offer is not ready to scale, because more attention will only expose the confusion faster. But if you can answer those questions, then volume becomes dangerous in the best way. Now more calls matter, more messages matter, more content matters, more follow-up matters, because every person who sees the offer can understand the value. And that is when money starts moving. Not because you became lucky, because you made the decision obvious. That is the real lesson. People do not buy because you explain your service. People buy because they understand the return. They understand the pain of doing nothing. They understand why the price is fair. They understand why your plan gives them a better chance. And they understand why waiting may cost more than starting. So stop only telling people what to do. Show them what it can create. Show them the money math. Show them the path. Show them the proof. Show them the risks of staying the same. Then make the offer. Because when the client can clearly see how you help them earn, the close becomes much easier. And for serious people, that difference is everything.